That was the most sexual thing I've ever seen you do to a microphone.
Anyone who's listening, I just looked over and basically saw Gordo fingering his microphone and talking dirty to it. So I don't know what happened, but I got super distracted. Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, a show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate it and decide if it's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about Gavin and Stacey. Gavin and Stacey went 22 episodes with 3 series on BBC 3. Here we're talking about episode 1, which was called Episode 1, originally airing May 13th, 2007. To get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me, as always, the boys, most of the boys, Nick, Joe, and Gordo. No Ferg this week. What's going on, guys?
Heyo.
You perverted piece of shit.
Man, I thought you were going to go with something else.
Same.
There's a couple I wanted to do, but I want to get into serious conversation about them, and it feels silly to do it at the top, so we can talk further about it as we get there.
How 2007 is this show though? Like it's just it's so much about it just reeks of that early 2000s, just like the cell phones, the cars, like
some of the songs, yeah. Technology is always the number one way to date your show, by the way, too. So,
oh yeah,
another English show we did, it reminded me of Todd Margaret in like the time and the way it looked aesthetically.
Can I ask, like, and maybe this is just me being stupid and just like uncultured a little bit, but like, doesn't it feel like all of these British shows just have like this lack of color to them? You can say that like the same thing about like the first season of The Office. We've done a bunch of British shows at this point. There's just like there's like no contrast at all, and I don't understand.
It's the production. There's a lot of like color correction that goes into like post-production stuff that like they might just artistically have a different system, that's commonly used around here.
That said too, though, not the sunniest place in the world.
Oh,
yeah,
true.
so I figured that's probably part of the problem. But like, as a film production or a TV production, you can adjust with lighting. You know what I mean? The sun doesn't need to be out for it to look sunny on TV. You know what I mean? Like, you can make it look sunny if you want to.
Right, but I feel like if you're from there, and that's where the main market is, to make it look as real as possible, that would throw it off. Like, that feels like a weird, like, Americanized
especially a show like this, which is very grounded in like a very, like, this show is very could happen tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it's a very realistic, not sitcom-y in a way, in that regard. Where it's like,
and it is older too.
Realistic.
So I'll give that. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing. It's just something I've noticed across a few different shows. But I guess just like the gray skies kind of rule over there.
This also has like the classic English format where it's like short series, and then they've done like 3 different Christmas specials. They actually did one this past Christmas.
I love Christmas specials.
They
man.
do love their Christmas specials.
So they have they did the 3 series, but their last Christmas special like legit came out like a few weeks ago for this Christmas.
All our friends across the pond are going to get mad at us for joking about this and making fun of it again, but nothing screams a show from the UK like 3 series, 22 episodes, started in 2007 and did their finale in 2024. Like, that's the most British TV show of all time.
Now, I will say the actual series, kind of went 3 years in a row. They took this big, like, kind of did, I guess it was supposed to be a surprise that they did this, because James Corden, who we're obviously going to talk about throughout the show, but he's one of the creators of the show, obviously has a bigger career on his own now, doing, what is it, The Late Late Show?
The Late Late Show, I believe, yeah. Or he doesn't do it anymore, but he did. Now I think it's just the karaoke in a car thing is his big thing.
That's like all he just branched that off and just does that exclusively now?
I don't think he's hosting the Late Late Show anymore, yes. But I'm sure he's doing other stuff. I mean, he acts and stuff.
But I feel like this was the show that kind of brought him to prominence, and then, he got that gig, and then America came to find out who he was. And then that carpool karaoke thing exploded.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. I'm not a karaoke guy. I know we've talked about this before, so like it's never appealed to me. Like watching a celebrity sing poorly seems like a weird way to spend 3 minutes to me, but
there's something fun about, I guess, celebrities singing, like artists singing like their own songs like they're just singing in the car, you know, along with him and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I see the charm in it. I don't watch it like consistently, but I've caught, you know, in a YouTube vortex once in a while, and those things will pop up.
I mean, it's really no different than, I almost hate to make this comparison, but it's like, you know, comedians in cars getting coffee.
Yeah.
You know, they're just driving around being funny, doing what they do. And if you're driving around with a musical artist and singing their song, it's like, it's in the same vein, it's just a different medium, you know?
The Norm one's so great because he's driving with Jerry Seinfeld and he's talking so seriously as two comedians about like the Bill Cosby thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
I did
A lot of
see
people are mad
Yeah.
about the hypocrisy. I don't think it's the worst thing. And Jerry's like, what do you think the worst thing is? He's like, the rape. And like Jerry almost crashes the car. It's so fucking great. Norm Macdonald, R.I.P. You hero.
Quick transition. What an odd time to mention it now, but I do want to mention this is week 5 of Fanuary. So the whole reason we're doing Gavin and Stacey is because it was a fan pick. This is Yuritz's pick. So I wanted to just give her a shout out. Thank you for picking this one. Yuritz has been someone who's she's won like prize packages from us before. She's been a very dedicated fan of ours for a while, so I'm kind of happy we can do an episode for her. She is the proud owner of a JGAG signed 8x10. So congratulations. This must be the second happiest moment connected to S1E1.
Is she from the UK or is she American side?
She's Florida.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to dox her, but I'll give you the where I definitely mailed something to Florida on her behalf. I'm not going to give you like a specific area. But
I was going to say, I don't recall mailing anything outside of the U.S. for people. That said, though, any of our fans outside of the U.S., you are not exempt from any of our giveaways. We will happily send you things all over.
Depending.
Okay.
There's been a couple times where we've said continental U.S. It depends on exactly where, but yeah.
I mean, it depends on what it is, but as somebody who ships and receives things out of the country constantly, I got a package from Australia today.
Anything fun? Got
here surprisingly quick. It was just a record.
I was going to say, I showed you recently. I got a record from the UK mailed to me recently. That was that Roddy Piper one. And it came in like remarkably quick. It was under a week. It was like, as a matter of fact, if I was to get like media mail from the continental US, it probably would have taken longer to order something from like California to my house. So,
do you want to know how fucked up the US is? So I've got a series of friends across the world, right, that we like trade stuff back and forth with, that it's like cheaper to get here and ship there than it would be for them to buy it, right? Because you can get it cheaper, whatever. A buddy of mine in Canada, I've got stuff for him. The Canadian Post went on strike. I'll hold it for you. No big deal. Canadian Post goes, hey, we're not on strike anymore. He goes to the post office the next day. He sends me the record. It gets here in like 4 days. I was like, wow, that's amazing. So I take my package. I go to the post office. The USPS is like, oh, no, they're still on strike. And I was like, no, they're not. You just delivered me a package. And they were like, we're not delivering there for 2 more weeks. I was like, okay, man, I don't know, sure. So I'd like call him and be like, I promise they told me no.
So what, the U.S. took the Canadian postal strike as an opportunity to like go on vacation from doing Canadian stuff?
Literally. And then I checked a tracking I had online, and it was like, there's like alerts on the top of tracking all the time. Like if there's like a snow event or whatever, like I had one the other day, it was like, there's snow in Atlanta. And I was like, there's like an inch of snow in Atlanta. You cannot not deliver this package. But it was like, we're not delivering because of the backlog to Canada. I was like, well, they seem to have no problem. And they stopped delivering for like a month. So yeah, every other postal service is more efficient than ours.
Quickly, I want to say IMDb has this show as 8.2. Rotten Tomatoes, 97% critic, 94% audience. So a very well-received show across the board.
I don't get it.
It's
not a bad show. All right. I will
then
say
you
this.
get it. Then you do get it.
It's not a bad show, but for our purposes, this is not a sitcom.
I was gonna say, this is on the line.
It is on the line. When you go on Rotten Tomatoes, it's not, hey, what do you rate this based on? Is it a sitcom? It's based on, do you like this?
I've been going to sitcom tomatoes this whole time.
Rotten Tomatoes is not based on the S1E1 metric of, is it a sitcom?
Gordon's been watching Fried Green Tomatoes. He's been very confused for 2 years. 4 years? Jesus Christ.
What is, do any of you guys have like knowledge of this show before going into this recording?
No.
Nope. I mentioned it to somebody at work today, and they said, oh, the James Corden show?
That's all I knew. I knew that was the show that he like came from, and until doing my notes and watching it for the first time, I didn't even know that he was like the creator and writer of it. I just thought he was just a side character that, became famous,
I will say this, though. Look, it's daunting in what we do when you see an episode show up and it's not 22 minutes, it's 28. And I know 6 minutes doesn't seem like a lot of time in the scheme of things, but when you're taking notes and being analytical, it can take a lot of time. And some shows we start with, and I'm like, 28 minutes, fuck me. And this one certainly was that. But when I ended this one, I did not feel that way, Gordo. I didn't have the same opinion as you.
This wasn't like a clock watcher for me. This wasn't the way it was formatted and stuff. Like we talk internally sometimes. Me and Joe take the most notes, and certain shows will take a lot longer than others. This was not for a longer show. It was not very difficult to get like my notes together, which is based on kind of like how dialogue and structure work here. So
what's interesting, the way I format my notes is whenever there's a new scene, it's a bullet point, and then I do like check marks, whatever, and then I go from there. Just so I can look at my notes and break up where things change. This is the most spaces in my...
There's a lot of flashy. We'll talk about that as we get into it, because that's part of how the show's formatted.
I will say this, though, about the timing and stuff. The number did not reflect the show, if that makes sense.
What number?
The number.
The number.
The number
I
of
think what
days.
he's trying to say... I think what he's trying to say is that the duration of the episode didn't feel like, it was like a 27, 28 minute episode.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That is exactly it.
Okay.
Thank you for translating.
Jay speaks Gordo.
Time number, no big deal.
Well, that's how all my notes are. Would you like me to talk about the open?
The actual opening of the show?
Yeah.
Go right ahead if you want to get into it.
Two people talk.
Okay, thanks. So now I'll do it. All right.
Wait. I want to compare the way that you do notes and the way I do notes. Your first note is, say again.
Two people talk.
Mine is beachside town, pan into office, giggling woman on phone.
This is
so
why
little color in what you do. Two people talk.
Listen, it is what it is. I get straight to the point. Two people are just talking. Move on. Next thing. Open. Music.
Okay, well, all right, let me try to do this the way I'm used to doing it. So in the opening scene is when we first meet the two title characters, Gavin and Stacey. Now, they're both at their respective workplaces, and they're both on the phone with one another. So we don't really have any context here. We just know that these two like each other. We like at this point, you don't know if they're dating. You don't know if they're a work flirt. You don't know, but the two of them seem to like one another.
I thought that they were in the same office.
I did too. Yeah, I thought they were across from each other and they were talking to each other, faking that they were on like client calls.
Yeah, me too.
But we're flirting. It took me a minute to like not see that. I'm glad you
okay.
did the
Yeah,
same.
I didn't get that vibe.
I didn't get that either, but
yeah, so they're talking and she's laughing hysterically, and she's like, "Stop it! Everyone's looking at me." And they pan out and you see nobody's looking at her at all. But that conversation does close out with them saying like, "Can you believe we're actually going to meet tomorrow?" So at that point, I'm kind of piecing it together that this might be a first meet.
Yeah, but you have no context.
No, I mean, we're coming in very fresh.
Just two people talking.
I like this intro though. I like that we're not beaten over the head with exposition.
Yeah.
Like it lets it breathe a little bit and you get to follow them along and see the story. You're not like, oh, I know exactly what this is. It kind of pulls you in.
We're seeing the chemistry between the two. Yeah. I mean, like we're just getting to know these two characters very lightly. We get to title screen, just black screen, reads Gavin and Stacey by James Corden and Ruth Jones.
Hate it.
And Ruth Jones is Nessa.
Nessa, yes.
Okay. Hate it.
So
you hate the title screen or you hate the show?
The title screen.
We've talked about it. It's
James Corden.
I don't know if this is the kind of show that I would expected like a long drawn out intro to.
No, I don't want like a "you're a 3-time loser" type of intro to a show like this. Like I feel like let's just get to the point. Also, it's 28 minutes long.
It doesn't. It's weird because there are so many like sitcom intros that I do enjoy, but I don't think I would ever miss one. Not like I don't want one that I enjoy to go away. I'm saying like I don't need it in a sitcom. If you're gonna make a cool intro, cool, but I'm not gonna. It's not a requirement for me to enjoy a sitcom. Like get right to the point. Cool. Like give me 2 more minutes of show that I enjoy.
And I'll say it's like a tidbit. This wasn't even when this was originally crafted. Like this wasn't even intended to be a show. This was going to be like a one-off.
It feels like a movie almost.
It was supposed to be that, and then BBC Three, who I think picked up season 1, was like, we want to do like a 6-episode order on it instead. and then they created like this sitcom or show version of it. So I would say just that writing style in general, like there's something about just that simple title screen gives me more of that cinematic vibe that kind of goes with the single camera show that we're watching anyway. So it kind of all makes sense to me.
I'll say this too. If you're going to have a big, long song or whatever, sure. But if you're going to do the small, simple thing, do it like this. Like we did Rodney a couple weeks ago, and it was like equally as short, but it's like, hey, I'm stuck between the O and the D in my name. You're like, I don't want to fucking see that. Like a title card that just came up and said Rodney would have been so much better. So I'm pro this.
Yeah, he goatsied out of that.
Again, I don't know if that's how I viewed it, but go back and listen to our Rodney episode if you haven't listened to it.
Hey!
So now in the next screen, we see that it's Barry Island, Wales, and Stacey's heading home from work. Before she walks into her house, she runs into like this older woman, Doris, who I assume just kind of lives on a separate floor of the same house.
I'd also like to say, I know we have a lot of fans over there. If we have any fans who are in Wales, reach out, because I find the Welsh language endlessly fascinating. So people in Wales speak English, but also speak Welsh.
Yeah.
And Welsh is one of those languages where you're like, what are you saying? But it's one of the most interesting sung languages. Like I have a ton of Welsh punk records, and they just sound so weird and unique because it's a language that kind of sounds like nothing else. It's super interesting.
So is your request for them to like call you on the phone and talk to you?
If somebody wants to talk, well, okay.
Send us voice messages.
Sure.
You can do that.
If somebody wants to reach out to me and talk to me about Wales, I will talk to them. Yeah, I find it endlessly fascinating. And if they also know, like,
you can probably do like an Instagram, like FaceTime type deal.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say some of the bands I like, and I don't even want to say them because again, the language is so crazy. Like, I don't know how to pronounce it. Like, is it E Triangle Cook? I think that's how it's said. I don't know how to say it.
You say E Triangle Cock?
Sort of like that, yeah. That was the most sexual thing I've ever seen you do to a microphone.
It's going to be edited out, but I need you guys to know, anyone who's listening, I just looked over and basically saw Gordo fingering his microphone and talking dirty to it. So I don't know what happened, but I got super distracted.
Don't fall off the stand tonight, baby. Don't do it.
Give it that hawk to her.
I hope 10 years from now, people are like, what is Hawk 2? I hope that just fucking gets buried. And that
People are
woman
gonna
just
forget
goes
10
and works
months.
at Cole.
No.
It's going to go away.
People are going to be still mad at her for their shit coin.
Yeah, well, that's a conversation for another day.
You buy coins from the Hawk 2 lady, you deserve to lose all your money.
I agreed.
True.
So, anyways, this girl meets up with the older lady, Doris, who's in front of the house. And they're just having like small talk. She's asking her how her leg is. I guess she's a very old woman. I guess something's fucked up with her leg. She said basically if she had an axe, she'd cut it off herself. What?
It smelt.
It smelled, her leg smells? Does she say that?
That's what I heard.
I don't recall that scene. No.
Is that in your notes?
What does it
woman
say in your
smelling leg?
notes?
Yeah, old woman smelly.
Why are you taking notes, man? You don't need to take
I'll
notes
tell you, I
anymore.
don't
You're
have,
good.
I don't have anything remotely from that dialogue that would insinuate that she was smelly.
Okay.
She talks about something that I think that you would want to talk about. And I don't know if you picked up on it, but she didn't say anything about smelly.
Nope, did not.
Okay, well, we do get a little bit of context in this conversation because she's also asking Stacey about meeting up with Gavin. This is where we find out a little bit about the two of them. They've been basically dating for 6 months, but they've never met. So we don't know how they met, though, right?
No, we don't know if it was on, like, obviously online, I would imagine, but we don't know where.
I don't know if I was reading up a little bit, just getting ready, and I don't know if this is the actual thing, or was part of what was the inspiration. But I think the idea is that they might have met through work by making work calls and got to chatting,
Oh, okay.
and it evolved
Oh,
from
okay.
there.
And this is a pre-video phone era, so if you're making work calls, it's just voice to voice.
Yeah, 2007 for sure.
I mean, the technology existed. It just wasn't popular. Yeah.
We had the power, it just wasn't as plentiful.
Facebook exists. Like, there's things you can see each other and like not be completely catfished at this point.
Yeah, agreed.
Do people still get catfished in 2025? Can that show still exist?
There was a video I saw, I think I shared it with you guys, where it was like some kid in pink hair, like, let me see how many times I can catfish the same guy. And like he catfished this guy on Tinder, like,
Oh, I didn't see that. I'll say, you know what? A lot of these, you almost feel bad, but some of the people who get catfished modern day, despite all technology making it incredibly easy to not get catfished, are very lonely people sometimes, or people who just so desperately want the situation to be real that they go against better judgment in hopes that maybe, just maybe, it's real.
That's fucking heartbreaking when you put it that way.
As I get older, things that I used to find hilarious are now sad to me, and I'm like, oh, I just want to be mean again and find everything funny.
I mean, there's also those people that like believe like Marilyn Manson. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, celebrities are into them. Wasn't there like a story that someone
there was a
thought
Katy
that
Perry one
Katy Perry
on like Catfish? Yeah,
there was a very recent one about Brad
Pitt.
Yeah, like some lady thought she was dating Brad Pitt while he was in the hospital. Yeah, and he needed money, and she sent him like an obscene amount of money.
Yeah, I saw one that was like an older woman with Post Malone. It's like, oh, me and Posty have been dating, and I'm gonna go and see a concert.
Yeah, and I think it was actually in the UK that happened, Nick, with Brad Pitt.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't know if that's more depressing or if it's more depressing with a show like Love After Lockup, where it's like,
oh god,
you know people are real, but it's so much scarier. Where it's like, yeah, I killed 4 people, but I love you. Like, don't go home with this guy. What are you doing?
Yeah.
The pictures that they were sending with the Brad Pitt were so clearly photoshopped. It was amazing. I'll have to find it and send it to you guys. But it's like, you'd have to be like the dumbest of dumbest person to like believe that.
Well, anyways, we have so much episode to cover. So I want to get back into this real quick. She rounds out that conversation with Doris. She heads in. She goes into her apartment where her mom is at.
You don't want to talk about the things she says you should do on a first date?
Oh, all right. I'm sorry. Let's rewind it.
Just because this does pay off later.
So Doris is telling her not to give up too much on the first night. She's like, really? Nothing? She's like, well, no, not nothing. Like a kiss, a cuddle, a cheeky finger. Just don't go selling the whole farm.
And Gordo, do you know what a cheeky finger is, Gordo?
Is that what James Corden got?
It is what James Corden got.
And is that a Welsh thing?
I don't think it's specifically Welsh, although I feel like in the writing they made it that way, which makes you think that somebody on the writing staff or James Corden like had that happen to him from a Welsh girl once and was like, I will only ever think of this.
I'll be honest. I blew past it because I didn't look into that more than it was, and I just thought a regular finger thing. Like I wasn't even.
Is it specifically the pinky?
No, it could be any finger.
Pick whichever one you used to pleasure your microphone earlier.
That was, I think, your index, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was my index.
Yeah. So she heads inside anyways and walks into her apartment. Her mom's there. And I like that the first thing her mom asks, like, oh, is that Doris? How's her leg? She goes, it's fine. She just told her it's so bad she wants to cut it off.
Cut it off with an axe.
Yeah, she's just like not paying attention at all.
And she has a £5 shirt.
Yeah, she got it at TK Maxx. Not to be confused with TJ Maxx.
It's not called TK Maxx, I don't think, but we were actually talking about this recently because TJ Maxx, like the company, is in England. It's called something different, but I don't think it might be TK Maxx, but it is something.
Sorry, it is TK Maxx, by the way.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Okay.
But same company, same everything.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
I wonder how that's probably a longer investigation as to how that works out because, like, you just assume that's like the owner's initials or there's something behind it. So, like, why does it translate different when it gets here?
Well, they did it. I guess they changed it just because there's a popular British retail chain called TJ Hughes, and they didn't want to be too close to that, so they just changed TJ to TK.
The next letter in the alphabet is K, so we'll just go
it
with
might be
this.
that simple. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Glad we cracked the case, boys.
Mom's asking, hey, do you want an omelet? She's like, oh, I can't. Nessa's going to be here at 6. She's like, well, does she want an omelet? She's like, oh, I don't know. So she sits there and she calls her on the phone. And she's like, oh, Mom's making an omelet. Do you want one? And this is like really drawn out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And then she hangs up and goes, she doesn't want one. They got me.
They got me too. Yeah.
They
did a good job of it.
I was waiting for like the big twist that was about to happen here. Like, oh my God, so-and-so died.
Like, Doris got hit by a fucking bus on her way to the store.
Yeah. And instead it becomes like, oh no, she doesn't want an omelet. And I don't know, something about how that panned out. I don't know. It caught me. So I was really, I don't know, impressed by it almost.
Also, if someone was like, do you want an omelet? It's very hard to be like, no.
Yeah, I'm a big egg man.
I fucking love omelets, man.
Yeah. Someone's like, hey, It is also not a super. It depends on what's in it, right? If it was like, you want like a simple egg and cheese omelet, you'd be like, I ate, but I could eat an omelet.
Yep.
That's my go-to simple omelet, and I think it's a Western. It's just ham, onion, egg, and cheese.
I do the same, but no onion. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't do pepper sometimes.
That's a Western, I believe.
If I'm out, it depends. I mean, it can definitely vary.
Bacon, for sure.
Bacon often goes in my omelet. That's like my breakfast meat of choice usually.
Sausage, if I'm feeling cheeky.
I enjoy jalapenos in just about anything, so I'll add jalapenos.
I used to love jalapenos. My tummy says no now, so I can't have them, but I miss them so.
You know what I got recently? I went to I got like a late breakfast, early lunch the other day. I just got over easy eggs over well done hash with some toast. And it was, oh my God, you break that yolk into the fucking hash.
Sometimes hash in the omelet too isn't bad.
I've never done that.
I
always love a breakfast sandwich on a bagel with the over easy egg right in the middle. So when you take that first bite, it just like comes molten fucking egg yolk in your face, but it tastes so good.
Yeah.
Well, we'll clip that.
I do like eggs that way. I just never thought of it as hot yellow cum as I ate it.
Now you will forever, so you're welcome.
Thank you. So from there, we cut, and now it says Essex, England, and you see Gavin driving up to his house, and he's on the phone, and we come to find out he's on the phone with his buddy Smithy, who's the character James Corden plays. They're talking as he's walking into the house, and it's just kind of like getting this plan together to meet up with Stacey, who, like, both of them are bringing a friend. So Nessa is going with her, he's going with him, and it's definitely like he's looking at this, Smithy at least, is she's bringing a friend, the friend is for me, how does she look, have her send a picture, all this stuff.
This is a weird thing to do, right?
No, I think it's a bit safety too, right?
Yeah,
like,
if there's this expectation of, hey, I'm traveling with you, we're going to go on this trip, I'm wingmanning with you, but there's going to be another girl for you to kind of hang out with. Hey, can I see what she looks like? I get that's a fair thing.
No, that's fair. I was talking more about just like the meeting for the first time as like a double date is kind of strange.
No, I think it like takes the expectation off of it. Like if one of you said, hey, and like, again, no expectation of dating or whatever, you're like, they're bringing a friend too because they want to be safe. Can you like hang out with this person, right? Like you're at a certain age where like you can have a conversation with people and have a beer for your friend and like whatever. Like, I don't know. It's a way for everybody to feel more comfortable.
And I think there's like an unspoken, right? Like under the circumstances, if I was traveling with you for something like that and you're like, hey, like we're going to like head off for a minute. It's like, all right, it's my job to now be with this person. And like, because we all know that the whole purpose of this trip was for you two to meet one another. So
yeah,
the two friends are both kind of there in case things are bad, to cut the awkwardness out, to like just keep things whatever. Yeah, so the practice isn't that crazy. And I don't blame him for wanting to see this girl, but you do find out very early that this is a sticking point with him. He really wants to know what Nessa looks like. And at this point, we don't know what she looks like either.
Did you think this was a misdirect here? Because nothing against Stacey's apartment or house she lives with their mom, but like she goes to her house and it's sort of like in a complex and it's kind of smaller. And then you see Gavin pull up in his own car and then get out in this like really beautiful house where I was like, oh, is the thing going to be here that he's like well off and he owns his house? And then you see his parents and you're like, oh, they both live with their parents. It's funny. Like that's a funny joke, but like I thought that was what was going to be like he's more successful.
Without spoilers, because I watched it and then I read up on it, but I feel like kind of a big part of what this show is the duality between the two lives that they live and them coming together.
Yeah.
So that's why, I mean, even the way this whole, up until later on when they meet, we're seeing the direct comparisons, like basically at all times. Her coming home from work, him coming home from work, her going to bed. It's just like all these things are mirroring one another, like the whole way across. Dinner.
Even when they were at work, like his is like a more business casual setting, cleaner. Hers is like a messy desk, more casual, more cramped. Like you can tell, like this might be something this is definitely something they're going to get into as far as the dichotomy between the two. He
hangs up with Smithy and we're getting to meet his mom, Pam, and she is quite the character. I enjoyed like her character a good amount throughout this episode.
Yeah, I did too.
she's going through this thing like pet rescue had to come, and she was like,
so funny.
She was upset because of like, it was like a badger, and the badger had already lost its babies.
And you could see the badger cry.
I don't think badgers can cry, Mom is a great line.
I thought she was watching one of those pet rescue shows. And I was like, very relatable.
Do they have, because he walked into his kitchen, walked by the refrigerator, and then opened a small cabinet.
Nope. I can tell you from experience that was the oven and the microwave. The refrigerator was underneath the sink. They're built into the cabinets over there.
Interesting.
There you go.
The Gordo's numerous European vacations.
I'm also fact checking Gordo because I don't buy it, but
I mean, Gordo just came back from Poland. I'm going to take his word on this one.
My father-in-law just redid his whole kitchen, and literally all of it is cabinets, and you have to know which cabinet to open up is where the refrigerator is. Also, too, the layout of the houses are much different in America than England. You're trying to retrofit houses from potentially could be 1100. So how do you get a modern refrigerator inside a house like that? So that's the workaround. Little tidbit for you.
It's always funny with Europe where, like, here you're like, my house is so old. It was built in, like, 1891. If you're like, my house was born in 11. You're like, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
There's a handprint and under it, Jesus.
Jesus.
When we come back to Stacey's, they're talking about Nessa again, and I was a little confused as to the relation between Stacey and Nessa, because at first I was under the impression that they were sisters.
Me too.
I think they were just friends, right?
But I think that's the case, that they're just friends. But when they're talking about, hey, make sure you stay near Nessa, and she's like, she's a big girl, she gets it from her father. At first I thought that was their father, is what she was saying.
You find out the father's passed on, yeah.
And she's saying, like, we don't know a lot about Gavin. Like, he could be a pedophile.
No. Pedophile. I love the pronunciation of pedophile. That's amazing.
And she's like, well, he wouldn't be interested in me then, would he? So you never know. Like, he'd be grooming you. It's like, but she's an adult, so it kind of goes against the whole point.
It's like a 25-year-old woman. That's not how this works.
And just in case, though, her Uncle Brian's Bryn. I'm sorry, her Uncle Bryn's showing up with a rape alarm for her for the trip. He tried to get pepper spray, but no such luck.
I like that this show definitely does a good job of, like, the Chekhovs, whatever, right? Like, everything they introduce, you do get to see. Yeah,
there's a lot of there's no loose ends. Simple story though. It's not like it's like, we've talked about, the writing of like a Tina Fey, which like is so like wild and random, but like she always finds a way to tie things in a very clever, like woven way. This is a more straightforward, but yeah, they leave no loose ends here.
Like, if someone says rape alarm, you will see the rape alarm later.
It'll for sure
you have to
come up.
question it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now Nessa walks in, and your first impression of Nessa is, wow, okay. So we already knew that she was a bigger woman because it's a reference to right beforehand, but she's also like a big woman who's dressed a bit seductively, and she's got this very grittiness about her. Like, you could tell she's a tough one.
Yeah, as I say, colloquially, we call it a tough chick.
That is Ruth Jones, who plays Nessa, who we said her and James Corden together wrote and created this show. And they had met like working on a different project before in the past, and then came together and created this.
She is a fucking tour de force in this episode. She is so fucking good. And it just like, whenever she's on screen, like, takes every bit of your attention. She's fucking amazing in this.
Honestly, everybody's pretty good in this.
Oh yeah, I don't think anyone's bad at all.
You have the two creators of the show who put themselves in a major position in the show, but as the side characters to each person. So instead of making themselves the focal point, they give themselves plenty of screen time, but not right up front, which was it's kind of nice that their characters mirror one another. Usually you see like those writing teams and it's like one person wants to be on TV and then the other person you never ever see.
Yeah.
It's like, this is my partner. He's in the shadows in the small office in the basement.
When she walks in, Stacey's asking like, where's her stuff? And she's like, I got a pack of feminine wipes and 60 Regal. I didn't know what 60 Regal meant, and I tried looking it up and couldn't get to I didn't know how to Google it in a way that was going to give me an answer.
That's the condoms.
That's what those are?
So when later on she's like, I've got a whole stack of them.
Got it. 60. For a one night?
Man, you have no idea what your vacation's going to give you for one night.
Okay.
There's 2 of them. It's 30 times each.
And she's like, what about your toothbrush? She's like, I got Tic Tacs. Like, oh,
Which again, all of this pays off.
Yeah.
that is true. And then she looks over at like Stacey and she had like this giant bag all set up. She's like, it's one night.
It's like a carry-on size bag for a plane.
Yeah.
Cut back to Gavin's. This is the first time we meet his father. And it's dinner time. They're sitting at the table.
Can I just say this is the grossest fucking dinner? Peas and fries?
It was.
And steak. It's steak, potatoes,
Oh, I
and
didn't
peas.
see the steak.
It was a whole fucking
This is
conversation.
the whole point of this is she's eating 3 steaks.
It was a whole conversation.
All I saw, if you go back to the tape, all I saw was just
No.
peas and fries, and the mother had 3 steaks.
Gordo's like, I'm going to write notes, but the caveat is I'm going to have this whole episode on mute.
No. Gordo, I want you to tell me the notes you have from the dinner scene.
Peas and fries. Gross. 3 steak
So-
Pam. Is he a pedo?
What is that for?
Okay. So, all right, I want to get into it real
Can
quick.
badgers cry?
I think you were writing notes. Do you pause while you're writing?
Yes, I do.
No, you don't. No, you
There's
Yes, I
no
do.
way.
do not.
I do.
You
I
not.
do. I do. Do you even take notes, bro?
No, but I know that there was
Exactly.
more than peas and fries on the
I will
plate.
say, though, to Nick's credit, he does not take notes, but I think he is besting you in this moment right now, Gordo.
Yeah, because what happens is she puts out dinner, and the whole conversation is, I'm on Atkins. So she's like, what? She's like, well, Atkins means, unlike you two, I'm not entitled to any of the carbohydrates. So I've substituted my chips for 2 extra steaks. So now where they're having sides and they're having peas and fries with their steak, she's just she gave herself 3 steaks, which this whole conversation is about steak. It's wild to me that you didn't pick up on the steaks because the whole conversation is focused on steak.
Look at the visual.
Listen to the dialogue.
Listen to what they're saying. He says, "You're eating half a cow, woman." Like, what do you think that meant?
Because they didn't get steaks. They only got peas and fries or peas
This is
and
Gordo
chips.
trying so desperately because we got on him like a month ago for this, trying to not rip on the fact that he can't understand their accents.
Sorry, I have a disability, sir.
so,
Being American is a disability, Gordo. That's fair.
so oh my god. So yeah, so she's gonna eat 3 steaks, and he's like, "What the?" The father is like, "What the fuck? 3 steaks though?" Which, like, I understand the idea of I'm on a Atkins, which nowadays the Atkins diet's kind of long gone, but keto exists, which is all the same shit. And
I mean, when Atkins died jogging, that really put a nail through the heart of that diet.
Yeah.
well, no, but keto is like the most popular diet now. It's the same fucking thing.
Isn't it the exact same thing? No carbs, all meat.
It's similar, yeah.
But keto's about the timing, isn't it?
It sucks that Ferg's not here because Ferg is our keto guy.
Yeah.
And our pea guy loves peas.
Does Ferg love peas?
Yeah, he definitely doesn't.
I'll say for a fact, yeah, Ferg's not a big veggie guy, so
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think I've ever seen Ferg voluntarily eat a fucking vegetable.
I can say this. I've watched Ferg try to eat broccoli, and it is Kevin trying to eat broccoli in the office.
It's hysterical.
It's
Yeah.
literally, we made him eat broccoli covered in cheese, and he was still like, ah!
Actually, it was from an omelet. We were at a breakfast place, and it was like a cheddar broccoli omelet. It was like you can't get a better bite of broccoli.
The best
Right?
way
It's-
to ever
Yeah.
eat broccoli is covered in cheddar cheese. It's
Yeah,
delicious.
and he was like, "Ugh." But Ferg, he goes into those things close-minded, so it could have been the best tasting thing he'd ever had. He was gonna vomit no matter what.
Yeah, he made a decision. I wish there was a live camera on him, as I know he'll eventually listen to this.
No, I gotta tell one more quick story that I just remembered. So, if you guys remember, probably 10 years ago, maybe a little longer actually, there was like this fad going around where you're not supposed to be able to drink a Sprite after eating a whole banana.
Yeah, I
Right,
remember
because
that.
it's like it's supposed to have like this reaction. It makes you throw up instantly.
What?
So we were talking about him. Ferg's like, "Fuck it, I'll do it." And Ferg doesn't like fruits or vegetables. Like he doesn't like bananas either. So Ferg threw up before he even drank the Sprite because he couldn't get through the banana.
But at least he had a Sprite to wash down the vomit taste.
Oh.
I do appreciate the idea that this woman thought she could take 3 steaks down.
They were kind of small steaks, to be honest. They weren't that big.
They were wimpy British steaks.
Like, I'm a man who loves a burger. But, like, I've hit a point as I get older where it's like, you used to buy, like, the giant burger. It's like, what size do you want when you, like, order from the menu, like, Fuddruckers? Like, do you want the half pound?
Oh, I miss
I find the older I get, the smaller those get. I got a double burger, I think, maybe over Christmas break, where I was like, I'm living the dream. And I was, like, sweating trying to finish that burger.
You got
2
the meat
patties is a
sweats.
lot of meat.
Unfortunately, I've conditioned my body to do some terrible things. I'm not in the situation.
You could fit like 3 burgers in this baby.
So she, like, as soon as she sees any opposition from her husband about it, she, like, just completely freaks out on him. And she's like, all right, I'm not eating then. I'm just going to starve to death. And he's like, just eat the fucking steaks. She's like, no, I'm never going to eat again. I really, again, I like the mother's character quite a bit.
She is basket case funny, yeah.
I love when she's going on her rant where she says, like, you're just going to go to the golf course tomorrow and you're going to make fun of me like I did when I had my urine infection, which all I could think of is in Apollo 13 where Bill Paxton releases all his pee out into space and goes, Constellation urine. And I laughed for like 5 minutes. It's the funniest part of the comedy movie Apollo 13.
R.I.P. Bill.
This is when Smithy walks in and is like, hey, what's going on, everyone? And he's telling Pam that she looks beautiful. And she's like, oh, would you like a steak? He's like, oh, do you have like an extra? She's like, I actually have 3 extras. He's like, 3 extra? He's like, I just had a shepherd's pie. I can't eat all that. He's like, I'll take 2 of them, though. So he's down for the 2. She gets into the sob with, here you go. This may be the last time you ever see me. So, as she's handing him these steaks.
Now, is his name Smithy or Smitty?
Smithy.
Smithy. Okay. Wasn't sure.
And then we cut back to Stacey's house.
Gordo, for that, if you think about like every UK punk record from the 80s we used to listen to, where it's like, who's the singer? It's like, his name's Nobby. Like, that guy's name was like Nobson. It's like an English weird tradition where like, if you just add a Y, it's like Smith, like his last name is Smith. They call him Smithy.
Yeah. Okay. Because they derive from blacksmith.
Probably that
That
is
is a lot of those surnames do come from that. Like, legitimately, yeah.
Like Nobson probably was the son of the knob maker.
Well, I went to Cabinety, but I couldn't get the knobby, so my clothes are in there, but I can't open the door.
So now we're at Stacey's house. We see Nessa talking to her at the table, and she's going on about some stuff. And that's when Uncle Bryn walks in.
You know who reminds me of a lot in this is the dad from Dairy Girls. I can't remember that actor's name, that comedian, but it's very similar energy here.
I thought it was Ed Helms.
What? Jesus Christ. I don't know what the fuck you watched. But he has a really like bubbly energy to him. He's very like light. He brings in a nice positive energy to the room, I think, when he comes in.
This whole thing where he's trying to give her the rape alarm and explain why she needs it, when he's like, look, take it, because that way if you come home raped on Sunday, I know it's solely your fault. It's like the funniest parental advice or like, you know, familial advice.
To say it with such like love in his heart when he means it, like the way he says it versus what he means, you know what I mean? It's like if you were raped, but I at least have the comfort of knowing I did everything possible to stop it.
It's not my fault. We tried.
So yeah, he's trying to get her set up in this like, all right, can we just demo this thing real quick? He wants to show her how it works. And she gets up, he's like, all right, now attack me like you're the assailant and I'm you. She gives him like a little weak punch and she's like, we might need Nessa for this one.
And she goes to town on him.
Eventually we see that, but we got first we get this cut back to Gavin. It's a lot of cut back and forth. Like we said before, it's the whole episode is based on like just like that duality of the 2 lives coming together. So it's direct comparisons back and forth, back and forth.
We've talked about certain shows before too, where like the cast keeps doing something and it makes you want to do it. This show was definitely giving me
Smoking.
like, I want to smoke so fucking bad. Like they're outside, like sitting outside with one of your best friends, drinking a beer, having a cigarette, gave me the most like, I want to go back to that time feeling.
Honestly, the cigarette doesn't like hit me that same way anymore, but it's been a while for me. But like the idea of like be cool to just sit in the backyard on a nice day and enjoy a beer with somebody like that. That's always fun.
That's tough in January, right? You're like, I want that. As we record this, 74 days till April. Not that I keep count every year.
Oh.
What's in April?
It's just April. It's not fucking cold anymore. It's April. At least it's sort of better.
Probably don't have to buy any more oil. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have to keep the heat up so high. I don't have to shovel probably that month.
So now the two guys are in the backyard. Smithy's telling him, like, hey, it's not too late to back out. He's like, why would I want to back out? Like, I want to meet this girl. He's like, I just think you're putting all your eggs in one basket. You're like all in on her right now. And he's like, what do you know about relationships? He's like, you've only had one and she just turned 17. He's like, whoa, 17 and 3/4. And she's got a 90% in her driving theory test in 2 weeks. So whatever.
I would like to know how old they're supposed to be here, not their actual age, because that throws that off a little bit.
I feel like they're supposed to be in their 20s.
Yeah, mid-20s.
Yeah. So 17, but isn't consent 16 there?
I honestly don't know, but like that's still...
I'm not saying how you personally feel about it or the morality of it, but we're going to have to look at this now. I hate that this is going to be in my Google.
But again, this comes up a lot, though. If you were 24, even say, right? Like, could you have a conversation with a 17-year-old and have anything in common? Probably not.
In the UK, yeah.
If you're a loser, maybe.
The age of consent is 16.
Okay.
That just seems too young.
And it says it is illegal for anyone in a position of trust to have sexual contact with anyone age 17 or under.
And I'm sure a definition of trust is like loose, like you're an adult.
Yeah, but 17 or whatever, like, as far as this goes, just for understanding to anyone listening on the US side of things, like regardless, what is insinuating here is not that Smithy is dating an underage girl. He is within his legal boundaries over there.
But it's a young girl and it's weird. And like, obviously he's like, getting this girl because he's like the cool older guy, I guess.
Right. So I think that's more the purpose of why he brought up the age, was not to say you're doing something illegal. It's more you're with a super young girl who doesn't know any better. That's more what's like going on. And I do like that conversation kind of like rounds out. And one of the last things said is like, it's his concern for who her friend is going to be, which, we've met Nessa at this point. He's like, she could be fucking totally nuts. And you cut back to her now doing the rape thing with the uncle. And she's got him up against the wall. She's like, you perverted piece of shit. They're like, put him down, Nessa.
Also, the best, she's got his arm pulled up behind his back and the buzzer's going off and not stopping her at all. It's so fucking funny.
Yeah, that's like the weakest alarm ever.
And that was like kind of the final lead into, the end of the night. Now we get the cuts of both of them in bed. Now tomorrow's the big day. They're going to finally meet one another. You see him in bed. You cut to her in bed right after, and then it like pans out and Nessa's in bed with her, fucking ass out in a thong, just like spread across the entirety of the bed, where like Stacey's just like basically sleeping on like the edge of the bed.
Meow.
Yeah, Nessa, nothing on, no shirt, just a thong, taking up 75% of the bed. So fucking funny.
It is, again, we've talked about the differences too when we've covered shows from like, other countries versus here and like what's cool here. I feel like that's borderline. Like now, once in a while, now they might test it under the right context. And where it's done for comedy, here's the weird thing too, right? Because it was done for comedy purposes, it's like more, like on US television, it would be like more okay. But if it was like, oh, just look at that like sexy butt, then it becomes like, oh, we can't go sexual here. But you're showing the same exact thing.
This is so weird. I remember the first time I saw somebody on like regular TV in a thong. It was some weird show where they're doing like a makeover thing, and it was Lisa
Cisco
Loeb
dancing around her, or
it was Cisco. He was covered in silver paint. No, it was Lisa Loeb in some sort of weird show, and she was like getting some sort of like dress makeover or whatever. And she's like, oh, and she ran away, and I was like, did we just see Lisa Loeb's butt in a thong?
Whoa, Lisa Loeb showed her butt?
But it was like 1999.
Huh. I didn't know Lisa Loeb, of all people. That's not the vibe I get from Lisa Loeb.
No, but it's the vibe I always wanted from Lisa Loeb, especially in 1999, so I was not mad about it.
I'll be right back, guys. I gotta Google some stuff.
Whatever television.
It's very findable.
Yeah, it's findable now, right? Yeah, whatever television show that was at the time.
Full discretion, as we're recording, in my notebook, I just wrote Lisa Loeb, so I don't forget to check that later.
Lisa Loeb, I think there's a certain type of person she had a big impact on at a certain time.
Her general aesthetic from like when Stay came out to like modern day is like still my general interest. So like something really stuck with me as a child when that song came out.
Especially if you muted.
I didn't mind the song. It's a good song. But anyways, next morning, and we see the bus pull up. This is Stacey and Nessa who are getting on this bus. And the bus driver, Dave, we don't know what's going on yet, but there's something odd between him and Nessa every time they interact.
Also, Don't Look Back into the Sun by the Libertines plays. It is a moment in time and a very UK moment in time, but I fucking love the Libertines. And this is not the first time this is played on, this song specifically is played on a show we've covered.
You know what's funny is like, yeah, it's like right when this show came out is like probably when you were at like your height with that too, right? 2007 yeah, so.
Yeah, like the Libertines and like the Kooks and the Paddingtons, like they play the Kooks later. Like all this British music at the time I was like obsessed with.
You're like, who is like someone I should definitely not pick to be my hero?
And I was like, oh, Pete Doherty, there it is. That's the person. It worked out well in the end. I'm doing okay.
So there's a point where the bus driver is talking to Stacey. And he's like, oh, that Nessa, and like an absolute animal. She's like, hey, by the way, is like, are we allowed to smoke on the bus? And that's when he says,
you want to say it?
You want to say it?
That's what I was going to say to open it, and I couldn't do
that's
it.
What I
that's what I said.
Open up.
I'll say it.
Yeah, we can preface it. Hey, anyone who's listening at this point knows it means something different there.
It does.
So,
yeah, Dave says bags and weed, glue and speed. Just no crack.
Wait, Gordon, did you say it wrong?
I think he did.
he was right at first.
Say it again.
Bags and weed, glue
Okay.
and speed.
I think
but
you
I
said
draw the
bags.
Draw the
at
line
crack.
at crack.
But I draw the line at crack.
I thought you said bags the first time.
I heard
and I was like,
bags
did you
the
not
first
get
time.
that correct?
Nah.
No, I know what they call that.
Yeah, that slang, bags.
Yeah, and then don't forget, guys, you can go to S1E1pod.com, and that's where you can find our fags and weed, glue and speed shirt.
It's actually all five of us. It's like fags and weed, glue, and speed. And everyone has to pick which one we're going to be.
We're all holding a sign.
Well,
with one of
Ferg's the
words.
odd man out.
Yeah, Ferg's the first one, so.
So, yeah, don't. You can buy a different shirt. There'll be other shirts up. That one might not be there.
I've done all of those things. And, well, it sounds weird now. Now I feel better at being like, remember when huffing glue was cool? All right, keep moving. Keep it moving.
All right. Moving right along. So they get in the bus. That cuts over to like the guys now, and they're getting on the train. So that's how they're getting there. You see the two sitting there, and it's like they're both drinking a beer, and you have.
This is where we get the J portion of this episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So Smithy's there, and he's like going over it. I tried looking up to see if I could figure out what beer he was drinking by the description, because there's something about fermenting for 9 years. I think that's all bullshit. So I just kind of
That's
looked
like
up
Monk
that.
Abbey beer usually, right?
Yeah, so there's like so there was no specific beer I think that's tied into what he was saying. I could be wrong, but what like limited research I was doing on my own quickly as I'm doing my notes, I didn't see anything. I will say in this part of like Germany, you know, there are certain styles of beer that are more popular, and it's like usually like you have your alt beers and your Kolsch's and Pilsners are kind of more popular in that area. He's drinking it and then he's like rating it. So he's like, you know, this one's like a 8.5. Now, yes, I am someone who also will rate my beers as I have them. I have like Untapped is the popular app for that. Which, you know, the beer bubble I think has burst a little bit. It's dying down some.
It feels like it has, yeah.
But even before, like I've been a beer geek for a long time before I think it even like took the highest of points. I've always rated my beers just for this for my own tracking. So I'll look back and go, oh, like I like that place. I didn't like that place. A chat that me and Nick were talking earlier, someone posted a picture of this brewery that's the next state over. I was like, oh, or not the next state over. It's just like probably like 45 minutes north of us. I was like, oh, I haven't been to that one. And then I checked the app. I'm like, never mind, I have been there. So I've gone to so many places, tried so many beers, and I like to log them in to, you know, catch those references so I don't, you know, forget where I've gone and stuff like that. But yeah, it's funny because as they're on the train, they're telling us that they had this plan together. It's them and a couple of their other friends, and they were going to travel the world and try every beer.
In 12 months.
It's impossible.
Beer. I thought they said food.
My God. You saw him drink a beer, talk about it in great detail, and rate it. This was our plan, was to do this.
I had a whole thing that I was going to ask Nick if he would do that.
Travel the world and try every food? Every food?
I was like, it's impossible.
It's impossible, by the way, to try every beer.
Yeah, all of that's impossible.
But I thought it was food.
No, but a lot of the breweries nowadays, the way that they make short-run batches and create new things, any single brewery in the area could have hundreds of beers on their own, if not thousands, if they've been around long enough. So the idea of we're going to try every beer in the world, literally impossible. But
also, I feel like even if you're a beer fan, and I like beer a lot, there are certain beers I don't like, and I wouldn't drink one. Someone was like, "Do you want this chocolate heavy stout?" I'd be like, "No, I don't want to try every beer in the world if I drink one of those."
I'll say this, and it's different depending on what you do. And me being someone who openly is also a big fan of like trying beers in this way, I'm willing to try almost any beer in a small taster. You know what I mean? And give it a shot for rating and for learning and just for the interest of like, it's a hobby of mine. So for those purposes, you know, it's different than like, I'm going to have a whole pint of it. It's a very different thing, you know? So for trying and understanding different styles, like I'll give almost any beer a try at this point. Yeah, to try to go around the world and want to try different styles of beer that are like native to those areas. But it was funny when he was like, we were going to try every beer in the world. It's like, there's got to be like hundreds of thousands. Like it is literally impossible.
Yeah.
Definitely an impossible task, yeah.
But, and he's like, and you haven't even been drinking your beer. He's like, I'm just too nervous. And Smithy steals Gavin's beer at that point and started drinking that one.
I have the opposite problem of Gavin here. It's like, I'm nervous. I'd be like, give me more beer. So I become less nervous. Yeah.
You mentioned the Kooks. This is right when She Moves in Her Own Way starts playing, and they do like a little bit of a montage. Because we're seeing both of their means of transportation. You know, they're taking the bus, they're taking the train, and this song's kind of playing now as they're both heading to London, which is where they're going to meet up. So I did do a little bit of extra homework on that. So Barry Island, which is where she's from, to London, 3.5 hour drive. You might want to add a little bit of time because it's a bus, so you figure that they're like stopping once or twice along the way.
And also not the fastest vehicle on the road.
But if you were to get in your car right now and drive, it's going to be about 3.5 hours. Now, Essex to London, which is where they are, on the train is about 1.5 hours. You take your car, you're going to shave a little time, like maybe 20 minutes tops. So they're meeting in the middle, but not really meeting in the middle. It's way closer to them than it is for her.
But they are meeting in like the big city. Like that
London,
makes sense either
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's London. You're like, where do you want to meet? Like in a small town? Like, no, we probably should both go to London.
Again, we've talked about, I keep saying like the duality. You're seeing like she comes from a more like modest working class area. They got to get on the bus. You know, they get this nice like coach train ride where they could have easily driven an hour. He has a car, but like, we'll take the train and have some beers. And like, they definitely are, they definitely have different backgrounds.
Yeah.
I appreciate though him being like, look, we're going to drink a lot. Maybe we don't bring our car with us. Like, and also like,
that's true.
think about driving to New York, right? Like I've gone to New York a million times, a lot of times on the bus, right? And when you go there in a car, like if I was playing a show or something, you had to bring all your stuff with you. Then you have to deal with finding a place to park it. You're paying for like a garage overnight. Like it just becomes such a huge hassle. Like just going to a big city like that is way easier to just be dropped off and have to worry about it. Or drunk drive.
Especially down the line, we do see what their night entails. So thinking about it now with that benefit of hindsight, yeah, it makes
I was going to say they drink a lot.
With the amount of shots that they do, which is
I'd be
fucking bananas.
dead.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because like there's not much sort of like between then and now other than them like meeting.
Yeah, but it is important to mention that though, because them meeting is pivotal to the story. So, I mean, they do eventually both get to London. You see her standing in front of like a fountain, which is probably what the meeting spot was. And you see the two guys walking up, and this is when Gavin spots her for the first time in real life. He's like, oh my God, that's her. They start like walking that way, and already like we already know that he's concerned, but Smithy's like, hey, where's their mate? Like, hey, like where like, and they start walking over, and the two finally embrace for the first time. They hug. It's like, you know, they're talking, and making small talk, like, oh, I like your sweater. It's like, oh, I got it at the store. It's like, oh my God, I got my belt from the same store. And just like the little stuff. And, you know, just meeting, they're so like overjoyed, right? These two have wanted to meet for 6 months now, and they're finally doing it, and everything's great. Smithy cuts and he's like, hey, did you come on your own? Or she's like, no. I'm here with Nessa. She's right here. And then like you see her like round out, and he gets like his first look at her, and you just hear him off camera just go, oh, for like, you know, for the love of God, essentially. And she walks up and he introduces her, and she's like, oh, this is Vanessa. And she's just like complaining about how much the 2 slices of pizza she just bought cost.
Which with inflation calculator into now, it's $7.35 for 2 slices of pizza, which seems to track to what I imagine that would be what pizza costs now.
Yeah, now it is.
2 slices probably like $3 to $4, right?
Remember when it was $1 a slice?
Yeah.
You could still get those in like New York.
And then the last dollar place is gone.
Oh, really? I love those places. They had like the best pizza, 99-cent pizza stores.
Those places got you so hard though, because it'd be like 99-cent slice pizza. Like, you want a beer? Like, yeah, of course I want a beer. But like, beer $7. Like, fuck me. Yeah.
Can you also get a cheese pizza for $8?
Probably not.
So like, why would I ever order a pizza from them if I could
Because
just go and sit
a
down?
pizza would probably kill you.
I mean, that's for like when you're out and you're not eating like dinner, right? You're like not taking a pizza home to have a meal. You're like out and eating.
Yeah, you're like, I just got out of the club. I need something to eat.
Right.
And it's like the size of a half a pizza. You're not eating the whole one.
She's talking about the pizza, and they're introducing each other to this is Gavin and this is Smithy. And there's just like this really awkward moment where Smithy's like, he's so angry now that he's seeing her for the first time, and he doesn't know what to say, and he's just like looking away. And for whatever reason, I thought this was the funniest part of the whole episode.
What I thought about this is funny what Nick said about everything's so drab. It made the pizza look so bright.
Yeah,
like the red of the pizza really like popped against the sort of drab everything else shot this way.
Were you guys not as connected to the anger coming out of Smithy at this point?
I mean, I thought he was angry, but I also definitely was like, I know where this is going. Like, I didn't feel like they weren't gonna eventually find a way together.
See, I didn't know. I thought they would just argue I thought that was going to be like the thing, is the two of them were just going to bicker at all times.
I mean, she gives him the pizza, and that somebody giving you a slice of pizza is the olive branch of all olive branches. Right?
I also have to listen back. I have a feeling that I may have unknowingly switched from Nessa to Nessie at one point and basically called her the Loch Ness Monster, but I'm not sure if I have or not. So if I was doing that, I apologize. The other thing with Nessa too is it's not really described, but she's like, she is in real life, and I think it's assumed and brought up throughout the lore of the show, but she's not the same age as the rest of them. She is older, like by a good chunk.
She's in her 40s in this.
Yeah, and I think the character's meant to be a bit older too, so.
Really?
Yeah, she's older than the rest of them who are all like in their 20s. After there's like that awkward moment, like Gavin and Stacey walk off, they're like, all right, let's go, let's head to the bar, and like the two of them are, the remaining two, Smithy and Nessa, are like just looking at each other, and she's like, hands him like the other slice because now Stacey doesn't want it. He's like, yeah, might as well. It just like grabs that slice and they walk off.
I love that he takes it.
Now it's going to be like the day has begun. So they head to this bar. They're like, oh, it's kind of quiet in here. And it's like, oh, that's fine. And like, you know, he goes to ask Stacey what they want for drinks, and she gives like the orders. And the girls go and find a table. He orders the drinks. She gets a white wine spritzer, and Ness drinks gin and tonic. I'm a gin and tonic guy, so.
They get 2 beers, a double gin and tonic. So we're starting the party off. It's also midday, so they're really going for it.
Yeah, they're starting early.
A white wine spritzer, and then is it 8 shots of Aftershock?
Aftershock's that cinnamon one, right? Does that still exist?
Yeah.
I think so.
It was like it's like the OG
before Fireball.
Yeah,
it was
Fireball.
Aftershock.
And it's like a liqueur too, right? It's not like, because Fireball is, I think, technically a whiskey.
The crystallized sugar on the bottom too.
I have a distinct memory as a kid. My family, my parents are not really drinkers. And when we were kids,
every Italian family had these bottles in their house.
They had they brought a bottle, like my uncle and aunt brought a bottle to my grandparents' house, and they were all talking about it around the table. It's a weird memory I have as a kid. And like the whole thing was like it crystallizes, and like then you can eat the candy that forms at the bottom. And that was like a big seller. The logistics of it though, it's like it's so cool in theory. And now you look at it with an adult brain, and like they finish having their like couple shots of basically just sugar water that get you kind of drunk. And then you just gotta fucking wedge a knife into this glass bottle to get like little pieces of sugar out so you can eat them afterwards. Like
with a pretty narrow hole.
Yeah, it's like it's not the juice isn't worth the squeeze there.
I think wasn't part of that too that it was like a menthol where like it was like hard and hot, but then it was like cool.
There was 2 different kinds.
Yeah, there were 2.
Okay.
I wonder if those still exist.
I'll look it up right now. I don't think so.
That's the kind of thing where like sometimes you see at a liquor store like 99 bananas or something where you see it and you go, huh, people do drink that, and you just walk away. Like you never think about buying it for yourself.
Yeah, I think it's gone.
Yeah, no, it's
gone the way of the Zima.
R.I.P. Aftershock.
I think you can still get Zimas, can't you?
Zima came back for a minute. I don't know if it's like it was a long term, but it did come back for a bit.
Smirnoff Ice happened and they were like, wait a minute, that was us.
You can still find bottles of it for like $50, I guess.
I mean, it's alcohol, right? If it's sealed, it's probably still, I mean, I wouldn't say good because it's Aftershock, but it's still.
It's just all the candy now. It's you just.
Yeah, it's just a solid brick.
So he orders the drinks and then he looks over and like, Smithy's still pissed. He's like, you all right, man? What's going on? He's like, this is a nightmare. He's like, what's wrong? He's like, A, how old is it? B, have you seen that tattoo? And 3, look at the size of it. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, she's massive.
That he keeps saying it is so fucking mean.
He's like, she's huge. And he's like, and again, James Corden, for most of you listening, are probably the only person you do know. And no, James Corden wasn't a lot thinner when he was younger and in the show. He was a big kid then. And it is acknowledged here, and they're going, Smithy, with all due respect, he's like, yeah, I know I'm big, I'll give you that. But like, look at the size of that. He's like, look at it.
He goes in pretty hard on her.
Yeah, and then the two happen to walk up right at this point. Kevin's like, hey, trying to get, Smithy to stop talking about her. And he goes, hey, been powdering your nose? And then that's basically when you find out that she definitely was doing coke in the bathroom. So now she's getting like really uptight about it. And she's like, hey, I used to do that, but I don't do that anymore. And like, don't accuse me of it. And, like wanders off and Stacey chases her.
Also one of the most like amazing British lines ever. James Corden is like, and now she's a drug addict. Brilliant. Just brilliant at the end. It's so fucking funny.
They head to the table where they're at. And at this point, it's all like montagey for a bit. So you kind of see the night progressing and they're drinking at the table and the two are hitting it off.
So many fucking shots.
Yeah. And the night's going on and they're drinking and drinking and drinking. And like, I think back at those nights though, when you're in your 20s and you go to a bar and you just never stop. As we're seeing those two, like Smithy goes from being like really dismissive and looking the other way to just being nicer to like Nessa, and like they're just like interacting a little bit to now they're sitting next to one another and
he's lighting her cigarettes.
Now they're all on the dance floor together. By the way, this whole scene is going on while we're hearing a dance remix of Say, 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 the Michael Jackson Paul McCartney song, which is like what a weird song to make a dance remix to.
And also a relationship that soured very quickly.
Didn't he eventually want the rights to the songs back? Wasn't that the thing? I will also say, for those of you, some of you may have a different opinion. There are, hold on, Casper?
Did somebody say my name? Are we talking to my friend Polly? We weren't friends for a while, but I gave him some Aftershock and we did some stuff. It's okay.
Well,
you
Casper,
guys like me coming to London, England?
Oh boy. I was going to mention, Casper, I don't know how you feel about it, but I actually thought that Say, Say, Say was the better of the two collaborative songs between yourself and Paul McCartney versus the Girl Is Mine, which is on the Thriller album. I didn't think it was nearly as good, so I think you gave him the better song for release.
I think so too. I think that my friend Joe once told me he thinks Thriller is a very overrated bullshit album. Casper, I did say that. I'm so glad you listened to me.
Your friend Joe probably decided he hated it when he found out it sold 80 bajillion copies and by default couldn't like it. He went into it with Ferg eating broccoli mentality.
I think that's unfair. Casper, what do you think? I don't like broccoli. I like broccoli. All right, he's got to go. Bye, Casper. See you later.
So, that's a whole other conversation. I still think Thriller, for what it meant for music and at that time, was a pretty good album.
I mean, I like it for the fact that it gave us some great Weird Al songs.
The thing that like came out recently with like this 40th anniversary of the album or whatever, that Thriller was originally a song called Starlight and they like on the 0 hour changed it. blew my fucking mind. And you can go on Spotify and listen to Starlight, which is the original version of the song. It was just like a disco song. And it's like, wow. Like, it's crazy how like some minor edits and just making the song about like spooky shit and how that changed everything.
And the music video, right? Like that song I think was
the video.
Oh yeah, the video was what sold it.
I think Michael Jackson and Cyndi Lauper are like the prime examples of like people who would have been successful in that era, but became mega stars because of the videos.
They adapted. They knew what like the next medium was. Yeah.
Like they like 84, 85, those videos like just completely changed the game. Because before that, videos were just like a guy in a room being like, "She's a man eater," like they're like that's fun or whatever. But like then all of a sudden they're like, "Why don't we make these movies?" Right?
What was the fucking like the first like video that even came out, the
Buggles video killed the radio star.
What was that was that's not even the one I was thinking of.
That's the first one that played on MTV.
That ain't nothing, that's the way you do it.
Money for Nothing and Chicks for Free by Dire Straits.
That was like one of the first music videos where people were probably like, whoa, look at this.
Right, it's got like the weird computer animation.
Look at this, these graphics.
Yeah.
We gotta sell those. That's like so fucking stupid.
And that song is just so awful too.
Yeah, those guys wrote Sultan of Swing and we're like, we just wrote a fucking amazing song. How about we write a terrible song and make it more popular?
I was gonna say, you can't deny that they made money off of that.
But Weird Al also made money off of that too.
Yeah, another one Weird Al did, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, to get out of this. So the night's going on and on. Even when you see them on the dance floor, by the way, like it's ending up with like the two of them are like sitting there and Smithy's now like smacking Nessa on the ass on the dance floor.
As one does.
So you see that they've really come to become friendly with one another.
They do also bond over the beer chart.
Oh, is that part of what he was showing her during all that stuff?
Yeah, he's showing her the beer chart and that's like what gets them interested because he's like writing it off because he's trying other beers.
Oh, I thought they were doing coke.
I mean, they may have done coke in that scene.
Yeah,
it
that
seems like with that
happened.
dancing. I mean, I will say they were definitely doing coke because everyone here has been drunk off of beer. It's not an energizing drunk after a while. You know what I mean? And they're like really going for the dancing.
See, when they're still on the dance floor and now you have Gavin and Stacey like getting to talk to one another again, like the two of them alone. And it's just like, oh, I was so nervous to meet you. And like, I can't believe this is happening. And it's just everything's going really well, right? Like they feel like they've known each other forever. And then Gavin eventually gets with Stacey, I really wanted to let you know. And then, it gets awkward for a second and he finally goes in for the kiss. They keep kissing for a while. The scene fades out. And now we get to the end of the night. They're leaving the club and he's like, all right. He's telling Smithy, like, come on, train leaves in 20 minutes. She's like, well, you don't have to go, like, if you don't want to. He's like, what, like, go back to your room with you? She's like, well, if you like. She's like, well, it's up to you. Like, I don't want you to think. And she's like, Gavin, I'm asking you if you want to go. Like, he's so nervous that, like,
She's making it easy on him.
Yeah, well, because he legitimately likes this girl. He doesn't want her to think, like, I only did this to hook up with you.
Yeah, right.
Also a good guy, because he's like, are you sure?
Listen, if you're talking to someone that much for like 6 months just for a hookup, like that's so much more work than you would need to do. Like if that's all you're really looking for.
Yeah, it's a long game that's unnecessary.
And what's funny is as they're having this conversation, Smithy and Nessa walk out and he's like, hey, you have to leave without me. I'm going to stay with them tonight. So now it appears that both gentlemen are going to be walking these women home tonight.
This is my favorite Corden line of the entire episode, too, where he's like, I'm not going in there bareback, which is the fucking shittiest guy thing ever. It's like, oh, I'm going to fuck this girl, but there's no way I would do it without a condom.
Yeah,
it's so fucking shitty. It's such a guy thing.
Do you have any condoms? And he's like, oh, shit, we're going to have to stop off at, like, the store on the way. He's like, they're both realizing, like, are you going to be... He's like, they've both come to terms with they're both getting laid tonight. The girl's like, hey, you guys coming? It's like, yeah, we might have to make a quick stop. And like, for what? He's like, we might have to buy, and he's like afraid to say it. And she's like, don't worry, I got a whole stash. Ribbed.
I love that she says ribbed, and Corden just goes, taxi!
Taxi!
With a sandwich in his hand.
Yep.
It's funny, too. And so now, like, they get in the cab, they get into the hotel room, the four of them all walk in, and, like, Gavin's so nervous. He really wants this to be, like, a real moment. And the other three, Stacey included, by the way, not just like...
Oh, she's down. Stacey's like, turn the lights off. There's two beds, whatever.
All three of them are like, all right, time to fuck. And they're all getting undressed, like all of her included. And it's like, all right, we got the 2 beds there. We'll take this one. You guys take that one. And he's like, wait, what? Like, I thought this would be a little bit more private.
So I had a big brain moment here, and I know it doesn't get touched on, but maybe I'll put this out to the boys. Is he a virgin?
I didn't get that vibe.
I don't
Oh, I did.
I mean, it wouldn't be shocking, but I don't know if that's what was intended. But I don't know. I didn't get the vibe, though.
Yeah, I got more of that with Nessa and Corden. Like Smithy, it's a hookup, and with him, it means more, so he wants it to be a little...
Right.
Okay.
Their first time should be not next to his best friend and her best friend, I guess.
The thing I found the most surprising about the scene is just the fact that Stacey was as casual as the other 2, I guess.
I didn't expect that either, yeah.
So for her to walk in and be like, whoop, her pants are off within like 2 seconds too.
Also consider they're all pretty drunk.
I think Nick just raised a great point too. Yeah, everybody has been drinking for like 12 hours at this point.
Yeah.
Which I think aids to his concern that like he doesn't want this to be, something in her brain different than it is. Smithy's like, hey, listen, like, I'll be a good dude to you. And where he offers to go, was that just the bathroom though?
Yeah, the off suite just means like the bathroom. It's like
okay, so the 2 of them go to take the bathroom, and she's like, only for the first time though, and then we're heading back in. And so the 2 of them go there to
that's why
hook
she
up,
got that
leaving,
big stack.
Yeah, giving them the room for themselves for a little while. And now you get the 2 of them like alone, and they're kissing, and eventually make it into the bed. He wants to play music at first, and whatever he played was like not proper music. So she's like, hold on, I got an idea. And she like turns on like the clock radio that's in the room and gets a song playing. They end up in bed, and you knew this was going to happen as soon as they started kissing. And then like you just start hearing the other 2 fucking in the other room.
Aggressively.
It was projected but funny.
This is maybe my favorite toilet flushing as a gag ever in anything aside from All in the Family. Like when they're having sex and he flushes the toilet and he goes, sorry. Like, that's so fucking funny. Because you're like, what position are they in where he flushed the toilet by accident?
And had to apologize for it.
Well, that's just proper manners, right?
They eventually get a laugh out of it and toss the sheets over themselves, and just kind of gets us to a flash into the next day. So like the next morning, we just see like both Gavin and Smithy are both in like their respective beds, passed out. The girls are already awake because they have a bus to catch. So they're like fully dressed, ready to leave. Stacey's like, oh, I'm going to wake Gavin up and say goodbye. And Nessa's like, don't do that. It's like, why? She's like, if I'm being honest, you kind of look like shit. And last night you look cracking. So like, let that be your last memory. And she's like, that's a good point. I'll leave a note. It's like, it was weird. It's like, it was like kind of like brutal, but like the logic isn't the worst.
Yeah. Right.
This is also where we get the chiclets again too, right? 'Cause she's like, mentions her breath smell bad. And then she starts,
Oh, the Tic Tacs, yeah.
She's asking about Smithy. She's like, what about? It's like, oh, his fucking breath is rank and so is mine. So like, yeah, there's no need to go over to him. And then she fucking starts down on the Tic Tacs. I don't know if we've talked about Tic Tacs on here before, by the way, but like as a kid, I used to love the orange ones, which are
the orange
most,
ones are the
Yeah.
best.
but they're the most counterproductive. You could eat a bunch of orange Tic Tacs. They're not going to do anything for your breath.
those are candy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just orange candy.
The white ones were like sugary and sweet, but they were still minty. Like you could like suck the sweetness off of them, but then it was a mint at least.
But not enough. I think like even looking back now, like the sweet to minty ratio wasn't there enough that it's going to actually aid your breath as much as you'd want it to.
No, but you know what does is lifesavers.
Like a mint one, like a wintergreen.
Yeah, like the wintergreen lifesavers. Those are good. Those are a good sucker,
But I
if you
feel
will.
so I feel like Tic Tac's whole premise though is the idea of like
It's a breath
we're,
mint.
we're breath mints, and it's like you're kind of not. You're kind of
Yeah.
just candy.
I mean, are we in breath strip territory here?
This feels like later than breath strips.
Like the Listerine ones that you would like.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. What
I think
you
we're
called
post
them.
breath strip and post Banaka here.
Post Banaka, but we might be in bread strip territory.
We're definitely post. Have you guys ever tried Banaka?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
super popular back in the day.
I felt it was almost like that spray you could use. You know, they still sell it, I'm sure, but like if you have like a really bad sore throat, like CVS or whatever, you can buy like spray to like numb your throat.
Yeah.
It felt like that, where it was like, this tastes like medicine, but then you can't taste anything for 5 minutes. You don't even notice anymore.
Does Banaka still exist?
I actually have the little crest. It's like the breath strip, breath mist, but it's just a little. If you're feeling a little gross.
Can you still buy Banaka? You can. What? No, I don't think you can.
Banaka. Yeah, no, just You can get it's like $60 on Amazon.
That's why I was
so
like, I think it's expired ones.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's gonna do much if it's so expired that
I'm just wondering, is that joke lost now? The old like Dumb and Dumber, like where it's like spraying off to the side? Yeah.
I just did it right now. I missed my mouth with the
Oh yeah,
spray.
Nick did it too. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Nick just did it. And it's Certs, which is a brand I thought was dead as well.
They came back recently, I think. So anyways, the girls leave because they get their bus to catch, and we do like a little flash forward. And now it's a little later in the morning. Gavin wakes up, not by much. It must be like a half hour, an hour later. And he's like, oh shit, the girls are gone. Like he reads the note and he wakes up Smithy. He's like, we got to catch the girls. Like, I got to say goodbye properly to him. And Smithy's hungover as fuck, doesn't want to get out of bed. He starts asking like about like some of the details about the night. And he says he has to tell Lucy. Is Lucy his girlfriend?
I think Lucy is the 17-year-old, yeah.
Oh,
Right.
I was under the impression the way it was brought up that they were no longer together.
I thought that too, but then listening to it, I was like, I think that he's referring to, he's like, I have to tell her.
That does make sense. That does tie in.
It might be like one of those, like he's more invested in that than she is. So like he feels guilty, but she's probably, I don't know. That's probably something you'd find out later.
He's like, you don't understand. She did things. Like she put things like, you know, and then
He got cheeky fingered.
And then he goes, did she, asking Gavin, like, did she stick anything? He's like, hey, like, don't ask me anything about like private about what happened last night with me and her. He's like, I need to know, like, what? He's like, I need to know if this is just like a Welsh thing. Like, why do you need to know that? He's like, because I need to know if this is something I have to go to a doctor for.
What didn't ring true about this to me is, and I think this is the perfect group to talk about it in, right? Like, we've all been friends our entire lives. I feel like if any of us were in that same situation, we woke up the next morning, we'd all be like, that girl just did this. Did she do it to you? The other would be like either yay or nay. It'd be like a long conversation we all had.
Yeah, I could just see his angle just because he's already so in love with this girl already. He doesn't want to like talk about, you know what I mean? It's like, it's the difference between talking about like a girl you had a fling with and a girl that you're like intimately like, I can see the levels and just where he is right now. He's very guarded with, he's very protective.
That's fair.
He's like, come on, we gotta go, get dressed. And you see like Smithy stand up and now he's wearing that same red thong that we saw her in earlier, like the night before sleeping in.
I couldn't make out the backside of the note, but I saw something that said thong. Like I paused it and it was the version I had, but
it was if I read it correctly, it said something to the effect of like, by the way, like Nessa can't find her thong. If you see it, like mail it to me.
Also, Nessa, it's time to buy a new pair of underwear. You don't even got to mail them back to you. Like, it's done. That pair is gone.
She's also been wearing them for 2 days.
Yeah.
She went to bed the night before in them.
Oh, right. Yikes.
She didn't pack it. She just packed some fucking
I
some
didn't even
condoms
think of
and-
that wrinkle to this.
We cut to a little bit later on now, and we're at that like the bus pickup area. It's the same driver, Dave, from before, and he's trying to ask Nessa if she wants to go get like some Chinese, like wants to get back down to like their area. This is when we get a little bit more of the context of their backstory, because it sounds like they hooked up in the past. So Nessa hooked up with this bus driver before, and he must have given her some sort of an STD.
Yeah, that's what I gathered from this. Yeah.
I didn't quite get it, but
Also, are we aging ourselves here? Do they now refer to it as an STI?
they
Is
do.
STD a dead term?
They do. They actually refer to it as STI.
Yeah. Sexually transmitted infection, right?
Correct.
Oh.
That's like a weird generational thing. Like, I'll never not call it an STD, but like, I just don't think that's like the proper
It's
term
not
anymore.
the proper term anymore. No.
Really?
Yeah.
Getting old is
Hmm.
weird.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I always love the idea of just the rebranding of words. Like, this sounds bad. It is bad. It is
But
bad.
like, infection's no better than disease.
Infection is actually worse.
It depends.
Listen, a sexually transmitted disease. Listen, disease is not a good word, but it's
Disease, I guess, gives off the connotation of more long lasting.
Yeah.
Where I guess like an infection is like the idea is it can go away
no.
with some antibiotics.
I get disease could be ambiguous, so you don't know how severe or how mild it could be. Whereas like infection, you're fucked. Like that's gross. Nobody wants to catch an infection. Nobody wants to catch disease
wants to
I was
either.
gonna
Catch
say,
disease,
I don't. I think
Yet though, infectious is a term of endearment. Like that song is so infectious is like a good thing, you know? But like those herpes are so infectious is a very different take on that. I got a disease once when my bum was on the cheese.
Ah. Do you remember when Tom Green did his cancer special and he played the clip and he's like, well, I did it. I got a disease. Yeah, right after playing the clip, like that was how he introed his cancer special.
Tom Green, I love you so much. I will never not say that Freddy Got Fingered is one of the funniest movies in the entire world.
He's kind of like backing around doing more stuff lately.
I mean, he was in The Trades, and that show was great.
Yeah, we covered The Trades not long ago. If you want to go back and listen to that, a show
I would love to watch more of that, but that is not available in the US for some reason.
And Joe doesn't know how to use the internet, so he'll never find it.
Do not know how to watch it. If somebody could send me like a burned DVD of The Trades, I would be so fucking stoked.
They're having this conversation, and like I said, it sounds like at some point he gave her this STD, and he's asking like, on that note, how's everything down there? She's like, ship shape and shiny now, no thanks to you. And then the guys run up, Gavin and Smithy, and he runs right up to Stacey, and he's like, hey, I wanted to say goodbye properly. You know, the two of them are hugging, and off to the side, you see Smithy handing Nessa her thong, like, oh, you forgot this. And there's a whole, so I guess I'll give you a ring. And Nessa's like, why? Well, you know, it's like, get a life. It like walks away from him, which is so funny because like how mortified he was when he first saw her. And now he's like, call you sometime? Like after a fun night of being probed.
What made me happy about this was when you look up shows, like we do shows, right? And like you have to look up some information about them to like pull stuff for notes or whatever. And you inevitably find information about these characters you don't want to. Even Wikipedia will say, this is their person knee before they were married. And you're like, I wish I didn't know that right now.
Yeah, it's tough sometimes.
I hate that. But I was very happy to see that like Nessa and Smithy don't get married. Like, I'm glad that this relationship is like, these are their weird friends who hooked up and they're always going to be in the picture. But like, I'm glad they didn't try to write a like love story that doesn't make sense for these two.
Yet, anyways.
There may be a new finale. Well, I don't know. The finale from 2024 apparently was like the most watched thing on cable television in the UK in like 20 years. So,
whoa.
No shit.
Yeah, so that might make them either want to do more or to be like, don't do it, and we can't do it anymore.
I know they were
like,
very like hesitant from what I read, like even like season 2, season 3, which were like in consecutive years. Forget all these years forward with this, but it's so much time has passed now that maybe they could see, you know, your lives change. But like, I think the artistic integrity of the two creators, then they were like, they didn't even want to do a third season unless they knew they could make it better, was what they said. So like, I guess you take that much time off, and if there's enough interest and you kind of, hey, let's see where this Christmas special goes. Like, I guess there's always room to revisit now if the interest is there all these years later and there's a new spark and you've had this much time to think of where would these characters be now. But
TV shows, wrestlers, and musicians are never technically fully always retired. They will always come back if the circumstance or the money is right, I guess.
Trying to give up hope on The Office. Not that we bring up The Office too much on this show, but
I'm again still mad I can't watch The Australian Office.
Again.
Somebody send me a DVD of The Australian Office.
Somebody can just burn you a bunch of DVDs.
We have a friend who's a listener, hey Pat, who lives in Australia now, and I asked him, I was like, hey, question, did you watch The Australian Office? And he was like, I haven't watched it yet. It's like, even in Australia, people are watching it, is probably a signal that this is not worth seeing.
As the girls are about to get on the bus, like there's just that last interaction that Stacey's having with Gavin, and she's just like so overjoyed. And I actually thought this was really sweet because she doesn't want like, you know, he's like, oh, I'll see you again really soon. And she's like, don't like make promises, like, and just in case this wasn't meant to be, I'm so happy that I met you. Like, she just seemed like very genuine and sweet in that moment. And like, even if it never goes like past this incident, like she dreamed of meeting him for so long and had such a wonderful time with him that she's just, you know, that if it ends today, that she was happy she got that, which was like very sweet. So they take off on the bus and the two guys are left there. And now Smithy's like, want to go get some KFC? And he's like, no, I got something to do. And he calls a taxi. He's like, where are you going? He's like, come on with me. He's like, are you coming? And like they take the taxi home. So he takes a taxi home instead of taking the train. And the whole idea is he wants to go and like catch up with Stacey. He needs to like, the second she leaves, he already needs to see her again. So he takes the cab home, gets in his car, and starts flooring it to where she is. Now, I did all this math earlier. It's like the distance from like where he lives to where she lives is like a 4.5 hour drive. The bus is leaving. He has to get in a car, drive an hour home with a cab, get in his car now, drive 4.5 hours. I don't know logistically how this works, but somehow he got to where she was heading before her.
Unless that bus makes other stops.
Unless they had some sort of a stop, but he basically had a 2-hour deficit getting to and from his house to like that point.
Well, again, think of like taking the bus from Boston to New York, right? Which we all did a bunch of times. So
you ever take it in a Feng Wai? You can get there in 2 hours.
Or you take a bus that's like
a real
not
one?
going super fast
Yeah.
because it's not in the greatest shape, and they stop for 45 minutes halfway through, right?
Sure.
So like you're making your 4-hour drive 6 to 7 at that point.
So wait, where does he live?
Essex.
So he's in
in
Essex.
and she's in Wales.
She's in.
Yeah, like I said, I was doing all the calculations earlier just out of curiosity. And had I not done that earlier in the episode, it wouldn't have dawned on me. But then I was like, so he got home, got in his car, and then drove there and was like standing there, like waiting as she pulls up. But
Yeah, I mean, that's like essentially driving clear across England.
regardless, somehow he did it. And, you know, we flash forward and there was another, this time we're listening to You and Me by Lifehouse, which was, I think, a song that he's used in many a montages around this time.
Question: is Essex by the sea?
It is.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not like right on the water, but
Is it possible? Is there a ferry?
He drove his car. We know how they both got
No,
there.
but a lot of ferries you drive your car onto.
Yeah, you could drive your car onto a ferry.
yeah, but if you look at the
It's straight across. Like, yeah, Essex is more east, and then she lives like to the west, and he just straight shot it across.
I will say this though, we were looking into going back to like Nova Scotia and taking the ferry this time, and it's the same amount of time. It's just, do you want to be in a car or be on a boat in your car? Like, it's not any better. Like, there's no ferry. I mean, it has to be like a very shot where there's like two masses of land and water between them that will make it faster. Otherwise, you're just taking the same amount of time. You're just not driving that whole time.
Makes sense. Okay.
Because those boats don't go super fast because they're logged down with people in cars, right? Like, so they can't really tool along the water.
Well, again, it was a theory.
But that's a good theory. Yeah, I mean, it's by the sea, right?
But anyways, yeah, just to kind of round it out, he is there when the bus gets off. She's obviously super excited to see him, like runs up. At this point, Nessa decides that her and the bus driver are going to go and get some food. So I guess the door wasn't completely closed despite the things that he did to her in the past.
She's also now underwearless and has had sex multiple times with a guy.
Yeah.
Had a million drinks and a million slices of pizza. That's a tough hookup if that happens.
Yeah. She's like, I thought I'd never see you again. And he's telling her, like, I had to see you. And now she goes, oh, this is silly, but I told myself if I ever saw you again in person that I would tell you something. And like, I can't say it. He's like, if you say it, I'll say it back. You know, they exchange the big L word and tell one another they love each other. And this is, I mean, I guess like, I guess if
they've technically been a couple for 6 months. I mean, like, I think
is
it's
6
okay.
months.
Yeah.
It's like 6 months. So I guess like it's not crazy.
I would argue that they are in more of the right to say it than maybe the opposite.
Yeah, like they've been having probably, I'm assuming, multiple daily conversations, texting back and forth every day for 6 months. Like, you can fall in love with somebody before you meet them, right? Like, at that
Yeah,
point.
I know you can. I mean, I guess there is like that dimension of actually being around a person is very different when you get the true essence of like, there's just some things that like you can't know until you're really around them. But
And they were around each other. Like, it was the cherry on the top, and now she knew. And well, they both knew.
I thought this scene kind of got me. I thought this was so sweet. Him driving out and everything. Like, I was like hooked in this where I was like emotionally
but you're also
there.
a massive Lifehouse fan.
I have no idea who that band is, but it's not something I think I would listen to again.
I know the song.
Yeah, it's a popular, especially at that time. It was used in a lot of. It was probably in 80% of rom-coms at the time.
And I'm glad you said it because I was like, I know the song. I have no fucking idea who did it.
Well, Gordon used to have a record label, Electric Lifehouse Records, right?
Hey, listen, if these dudes signed, I wouldn't be.
Corden would not be on this podcast right now.
You'd have a lot of money. But yeah, no, the scene ends up closing out with like they're kissing after exchanging I love you. She jumps up on him, which sets off the rape alarm. He's like, what's that? He's like, oh, it's just my rape alarm. And that's like the last thing we hear as like, it fades out. You see the bus drive off and we hear the music.
I love the writing of this show, and I love that everything comes back around, and I love that they do this whole sweet montage of her sat on the bus, him driving as fast as he can to meet her, they have the kiss, they both say I love you, and then the rape alarm goes off. Like, that's the shit that grounds the writing so much. We're like, this is gonna be funny, but like, you're allowed to have the sweet moment.
Yeah, I mean, that's the completion of the thing. Couple things I wanted to mention. There was an attempt to there kind of officially was a US adaptation. So NBC orders a pilot in 2008. It goes nowhere. Then the next year, ABC orders a pilot, and I didn't quite understand if it might have been filmed. It might not have. I think maybe the ABC one did.
From what I gathered, it was filmed, but never shown. The pilot doesn't get picked up. So like, I don't think it said who was in it even.
No, so NBC picks it up in concept, doesn't get anywhere. ABC, I think, eventually creates a pilot, but doesn't get picked up, isn't seen by anybody. Now, Fox picks up the idea for the adaptation like a few years later, eventually orders a 13-episode run, and then before it ends up happening, it turns into a 6-episode order, and then before it comes out, instead of going on Fox, gets moved to Crackle. So, like, as a U.S. adaptation, just completely like, I don't know, this thing was just snake bitten. It was like not meant to be adapted here. But it did eventually get made as a 6-order run on Crackle, but under a different name. And it was Us and Them, right? I believe is the name of the show that eventually airs here.
Michael Ian Black is in it. John Ritter's kid is in it. Is that Josh Ritter?
Oh, really? Yeah, I didn't have
Michael
much
Ian Black's in it, so it got canceled immediately.
I love Michael Ian Black so much, and the choices he makes, where he's like, we're going to do that show on CNN now. And I'm like, why are you doing a comedy show on CNN? This will just get canceled. This is a terrible choice. You're such a funny person. Why do you keep doing this? He's so
funny, but he literally, like, everything how long did Us and Them last?
6 episodes.
No, not even that. No, I wouldn't even say it lasted 6 episodes because it all got dropped to Crackle.
But at least it was like aired, like the episodes existed in the world. Like
I thought like Crackle picked it up to keep going is what you meant. But
no, like Fox ended up ordering and making the episodes and going, nah, it didn't even air them.
Here you go, Crackle.
Crackle did make Joe Dirt 2, though.
That's true. The Crackle original.
And I love Joe Dirt, and Joe Dirt 2 was a fucking bummer, man. I think they did not need the scene where they were on Leonard Skinner's plane. That was like a scene where I was like, this is too depressing for this movie.
Joe, did you also see the tidbit that Gavin and Stacey's surnames are both the names of like known British serial killers?
I did not, no.
So both Shipman and West, which are their respective last names, were both like serial killers. There was Dr. Harold Shipman and Fred West, who are both like serial killers in the London area. And I guess when they were asked about it, they were like, the idea was kind of like to almost take the stigma away from those names, like in that area.
That's smart, yeah.
So, because the connotation doesn't go just to them now. There's something else, you know what I mean?
So was someone in like BBC named West or Shipman? Because that sounds like a personal vendetta.
Oh, maybe. I see what you're saying, yeah. They're trying to remove the stigma because they know somebody with the name and they're trying to help them out.
Oh, I don't know. But this was...
It's like our friend Greg Hitler. We keep being like, Greg, come on the show. We'll call it S1E1 and Hitler. And he keeps saying, I don't want to do it, man.
There you go. There's a shirt.
S1E1 and Greg Hitler. Anyone buys it and wears it and can show us proof of us in a place with more than 4 people wearing it, I will buy you a meal.
Yeah, originally the character names were Gavin Hitler and Stacey Mussolini, and then they were like, like we'll tone it down, we'll just do it local. But no, I thought that was kind of a fun thing. There wasn't a lot of other things I saw about the show, but I thought that was interesting.
I do kind of want to see that. I wonder if that exists because I think most stuff that was on Crackle, it's like Crackle, and I always forget the name of the NBC one that was pre-Peacock, where like a bunch of that stuff just didn't exist. I think it took forever for like bajillion-dollar properties to come out, and now you can only buy it. Like, I don't know. I would like to see the...
Was it Crunchyroll?
No, Crunchyroll I think that's the anime one.
Wasn't it just called The Bird?
No, it was something different. If you look up Bajillion Dollar Properties, it'll say what it premiered on, and that was the name of the channel. It was something weird.
But in any event, I don't want to drag this on too long. We've been talking for a while. I don't know if you guys have any other tidbits or things you want to say about the show before we get into the green light or cancel. No? All right.
I will say I've never had a full English breakfast, but take away the mushrooms and I'd like to try it.
I mean, it's not bad.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
My thing is, beans in the morning, not a good.
That's not a way I want to start my day, probably, yeah.
How are the beans prepared, though? Because, like, I'm not
baked.
really...
They're baked beans. They're like Heinz
So they're
baked
baked beans, but they're in a tomato sauce.
Yeah, it's like red Heinz baked beans.
It's Jay. I'm telling you, if it's so I will make us all an English breakfast one morning. If we ever go out together and like spend the night at like a B&B, whatever, I will make us all an English breakfast.
So you want to give everyone heartburn and gas?
Oh yeah, because we'll be eating real healthy up until breakfast, right?
Up until?
No, that's what I mean. We won't be. It doesn't matter.
I mean, I'll eat beans with you in the morning, Nick.
Oh God, it's so dude. Just those beans on some toast is unbelievable.
Oh, beans
It's
and
so
toast.
fucking good.
All right, well, but to close this out so it doesn't go too long, I want to get into the green light or cancel. We don't have Ferg with us this episode, so obviously go to S1E1pod.com. There will eventually be a graphic, and that will have his vote included with it in the event of a tie right now. But either way, just in case you're just curious how Ferg felt about the show, you'll be able to see it there. So again, S1E1pod on all our socials. But to get into it, spin the wheel. Gordo, starting with you.
Let me whip out my notes. What the fuck was that show? Wasn't a sitcom. Fingers in butt. Who the fuck eats peas and fries? Cancel.
Okay. Again, the green letter cancels are our own. We can decide how we feel about them, and that is completely your opinion. I think we have gone over this many a times. Is it sitcom? Is it not a sitcom? Is not a reason to cancel a show because they don't make it to appease us. It's just like how Rotten Tomatoes is not based on our metrics either.
Nope, I get it.
But hey, you don't want a finger in the butt show. I totally understand.
Yeah.
Nick.
Yeah, this is a green light. It was a lot of fun to watch. It's not a sitcom per se. If it is, it's very close to the line. I enjoyed it though. I found myself almost instantly enamored by this story. It's unique, and the characters. I don't particularly like James Corden, but I liked him in this. And it just every character seemed to really shine in their own way, and the story was just genuinely interesting. And I liked that just that endearing, sweet, button up that they did at the end of the episode. It makes you want to see what else will happen. Watching additional episodes of this will be the deciding factor on whether or not it's a contained story or a more sitcom style type of thing. So you kind of can't even really say it's not a sitcom yet, per se. I have a feeling it's going to lean not very sitcom-y. But I'm going to watch the next couple episodes and just see what happens, because it was a fun watch and I enjoyed it. And so it's a pretty easy green light.
Joe.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. I think the scene, Nick, you're talking about, like, describes the show perfectly, right? Like, it's so sweet and then it's still so funny, right? Everything around them is so good. Like, I think the surrounding of, even with them kissing everything, like Nessa going off with the coach driver, right? Like, you just want to see where this is all going. I love that I told my wife about this. I was like, I know I tell you sometimes we watch shows for the podcast from like, I think we really like this one. And I explained this one to her, and she even said, like, I'm going to watch the first episode while you record, and that way, if I like it, we can watch it together. And I was like, oh, she's never done that before. And then I got a text from her being like, the Libertines, the Kooks. And I was like, oh, that's my wife. It makes the most sense in the world. I really enjoyed this. I'm so glad it's actually streaming somewhere we can get it. I don't know how much of it. I don't know if all of it's on there or like the finale or the Christmas stuff, but I will certainly.
I know
watch
at least the
first
3 seasons are. I'm not sure about the Christmas specials. I didn't really look into it that much, but
I will say this though: I'm one of those people who has a very hard time watching anything Christmas outside of Christmas. So I will have to make a note to find those post Thanksgiving this year. But I love this green light.
So I'm conflicted. So I like this episode. At first, I was a little iffy on it, but then as it picks up and it's like you get the vibes, I really liked a bunch of the characters. My big issue is like I feel complete. Like I feel like I got everything I needed in this episode. Like this ended like I felt like this was almost made more to be like originally the concept was we want to make a movie and they said no, make it a show. And I feel like no, make it a movie. Like I would have rather like the idea of like this being like a 1 hour like thing and just kind of ending there. So I'm a little conflicted there because I don't really know what else I need. Like the two wanted to meet, they met, they had a great time, it worked out, they're in love, everyone drives off, we're happy. And like now we're gonna complicate it. Like I feel like we got a complete story here. So despite the fact that I liked the episode, I think I'm gonna lean to the cancel just because I feel like I don't need to see more. And it's not because I didn't like it. It's weird. It's a very weird situation, but I just feel like again it was a complete story, and I didn't need. It doesn't leave me like what's next. It left with the beautiful song and the drive off in the sunset, and that's like how the finales should be.
Well, at least you had a good reason.
Yeah.
Fingers and butt isn't a good reason.
Yeah, finger and butt, not a sitcom. Same thing. We basically said the same thing different ways.
Exactly.
With that in mind, we're actually leaving you guys on a tie. I'm sorry, we can't definitively say win-win. So make sure you go to our socials one more time.
Ferg will cancel. Ferg will cancel this.
Oh, I know which way Ferg's
I will
going.
bet my next paycheck on it.
In my brain, he's going to cancel, but you don't know for sure. So, but anyways, go to S1E1pod.com. That's where you can find all the links to everything that we have. I want to thank you guys again. This is the last episode of Fanuary. Thank you to Yuritsa. Thank you to everyone who participated. Anyone who sent us just their Spotify raps. Can't say it enough. It's so like wild to me. Like I listen to a lot of podcasts and there's only so much time in a day. And the fact that so many of you make us not just a part of your weeks, but like routinely to the point where we're in your top 5, if not your number 1 podcast for it's just, it's so appreciated. I can't put it into words enough. So thank you to all of you. And we hope to continue to grow it and do another Fanuary next year. You guys are 1,000% the reason we keep doing this and push ourselves to always get everything out on time for you and do as promised. So thank you again, but we'll catch you again next week with another new episode. Episode 200 next week. So catch you for that one.
Wow.
We will talk more then. So until then, thank you.
Australian Office.
Goodbye.
I think we got the best pedophile.